Brian, I've just been scrolling on Twitter. Have you seen the name of the new unset?
Let me see what it's called. Unfinity?
Seems a bit weird, though, doesn't it?
It's a spoof set, Vince. It's meant to be weird.
No, I mean unstable, unsanctioned, unhinged, unglued. All the previous unsets were real words, though.
Yeah, like how unstable had a mad science aesthetic, and oh, the flavor of unsanctioned? Perfect. No one played with it.
Yeah, but Unfinity, doesn't it seem a little bit early to start making up words for the unsets?
You're so right, and I mean, unbelievable is right there for them. And what is an unset, if not the unbelievable put to card stock?
And we could have had Unusual, which could be a set that treads the fine line between actual overt spoof and a real Magic set.
Ungodly, a set that takes all the fears that evangelical suburbia had about Magic the Gathering during the Satanic Panic and goes all in on confirming them.
Oh, it could have an actual depiction of Satan in it.
With alternate art featuring Little Nas the 10th.
Unattainable, a set that never leaves the pre-order stage.
Unsure, where everything in the set is a scratch card where you're not allowed to reveal what anything is until after you've drafted.
Unable, where you just can't anymore.
Universes Beyond.
Don't you mean universes beyond? That already exists.
No, Universes Beyond, where it's just regular Magic the Gathering cards with no Fortnite and no Pickle Rick.
How about undemocratic? Every card is designed by only Mark Rosewater. A lot like a courier, actually.
Unsportsmanlike, an arena-exclusive unset where you have to spam emotes in order to win.
Unremarkable, where they just reprint a courier, but with no companions.
Unthinkable.
Unorthodox.
Unbrandable.
Unlikely.
Uno.
What? Well, that was unexpected.
Hello and welcome to Dies to Removal, but before you turn off your video player, I want to assure you that Vince and I will be back recording in person for the next episode, but for this episode, we've got so much dropping, so much big things happening in Magic. We wanted to be topical, we wanted to be on the cutting edge, so sit down, buckle up, and we're gonna talk about what happened 2 weeks ago, which is topical for us.
Yeah, right. We don't normally hit this cutting edge, right? We're normally 3 weeks out, so 2 weeks is relatively fresh.
Yeah, 3 weeks, sure, if you replace the word weeks with months. But we're going to be covering this large idea of the inevitable soul-crushingness of endless rotation, artificial rotation. Just about every format now seems to rotate, whether it's official rotation like Standard or what we are deeming artificial rotation, the influx of must-have cards or game-changing cards, or meta-changing cards, or anything related to that comes into formats like Modern and even Commander. Commander used to be a format that you could just drop your deck on the shelf for 6 months, and it's fine, and now actually, maybe it's not, unless you're finding other people who aren't updating their decks. It's really hard to keep up with the neighbors when it comes to Commander, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you said Commander and Modern. I mean, Standard's got a mini rotation now as well. You've got big rotation and mini rotation. There's just rotations all over the shop. Your cards don't last like they used to, Brian. Not to sound too much like old men shouting at clouds, but back in my day, cards used to have a life cycle more than 6 months, but there you go.
And now, thanks to Alchemy, even the eternal digital format of Historic will be rotating, and rotating frequently, unexpectedly. So much rotation, it's even affecting Silver Border unsets, which kind of are no more. Or are they? They're kind of still happening, but now some of them are black border. We're covering all this today. Shall we start there with the unsets and then get into Alchemy and Modern Horizons?
Don't use the terms silver border and black border, Brian. That's going to confuse people now, right? That's too confusing for our little small reptile brains. It's now Acorn stamp or not Acorn stamp. Silver borders don't exist anymore, right?
Well, but the Acorn stamp is only on rares, and there won't be an Acorn stamp on uncommons that may be treated as though they have an Acorn stamp on them, right? Or did they go back on that? I think even Mark Rosewater was confused, which is a great sign.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say that because I believe not all the uncommons are going to be legacy legal because I assume some of them will involve you, like doing the hokey pokey and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't too clear because even so, if people didn't know, there was a rare from Unglued that was showed off that I was excited to be a legacy legal card. It's like a storm payoff, a water gun balloon game, and they showed off the one with a non-Acorn stamp. So I was like, oh, they're upshifting old silver border stuff into black border playable in legacy, playable in Commander, and then they said, oh no, whoopsie, we put the wrong preview image up. So even Wizards aren't quite sure what's legal and what's not at the moment.
Yes, and I am going to count myself as among them. It's very hard to keep track of. One of the things with all of these new designators, with all of these new legalities, in the case of Alchemy, with all of these literally changes to what a card does, although we've seen in paper not too long ago, a great example is Companions, where reading the card doesn't explain the card because they've changed what a card does. And if I don't remember what they changed it to and I open a pack of Ikoria or I just take out my collection and I get Companions, I have to go look it up and such. There's just so much going on. In isolation, it isn't a big deal. I saw actually someone, I believe it was Aaron Forsyth, tweet out, is this really so hard about one of these issues? I forget which one. It seems like it's just, well, if it's the A, then it's A. If it's B, then it's B. And my response to that is yes, but we have so much of this going out there, so many conditional things. Every set, what's in a booster pack changes. Now what's in an unset changes, and it becomes just so much to have to keep in your head just about legality and what goes where or what comes from where. Where do I find this card? Let's go over unsets. What do you think of there being unset cards that are legal in Legacy and Commander and Black Border?
So
they're all black border now. There's no silver borders in the unset. Is that correct?
Yeah, no silver borders, different stamps. So I was saying a similar thing to what Aaron Forsyth was saying. Like, is it really that hard to understand whether an acorn shaped icon or a spherical shaped icon or whatever is hard to understand? But I'm also starting to concede the fact that these are all like micro issues that when they all add up, they mount up to like insurmountable confusion, right? Personally, as a content creator, I'm actually excited for new cards in the unsets to be playable in Commander and in Legacy. Some of the cards are already shown, like the one that splits a creature into 2 copies of itself is really cool for Legacy and Commander. And I thought the old period where we had silver border cards legal in Commander was cool. However, as a player, I find it frustrating because I like to have products in the calendar that I can kind of ignore a little bit, and that is no longer the case. The argument that a product is not for you doesn't really work if every product has legal cards for your format in them, whether that be Legacy or Vintage or Commander or whatever. So from a content creator perspective, I've always lots of new toys to play with, but as a player, I kind of wish I could just ignore this set if I wanted to, and I can't. How about you? Did you play? Did you enjoy when Silver Borders were legal?
I did. I didn't like, and I'm gonna get apologies in advance. We had the joke about it in our opening skit, which another proficient moment of us where we were making fun of unsets, and then this was before when we filmed that skit, before we knew about the Acorn Black Border thing, but I liked the draftable silver border sets, especially the most recent one. Now, that is not unsanctioned, which was the pre-constructed decks. Unstable. Unstable, in my opinion, is one of the best, most enjoyable drafting experiences I've had in a long time. But a lot of that had to do with the silliness and it being very properly engineered silliness with the mechanical exploration of design space. This is what silver border sets are supposed to be. The pre-constructed decks I didn't like. I think that unsets should be drafted, that they're meant for draft, and so I wasn't a big fan of that. Here we are, it is draftable, but my question to you is, are we essentially ending, as someone who liked drafting silver border unsets, are we essentially ending silver border unsets? Because if these non-Acorn cards are cards that are legal in Legacy and Commander, by the definition of what a silver border set was supposed to be, meaning cards that are not following certain guidelines of what a Magic card can do currently, though one day might be exploring a mechanic or previewing a mechanic that comes into play, then did we just essentially end silver border unsets and say, hey, it's just another standalone Magic set where there's some goofy cards in it that you can't play with? But so it feels kind of like a letdown where it's like, wait a minute, I thought the whole set was this beautiful tapestry of going into the madness of R&D, all the silly things they practice with one another and talk about with one another in the pit. And then it's like, no, actually, it's just more Magic cards for you to buy and use and play with. So from a business standpoint, that's fine. Like you said, it's harder and harder to ignore. But I feel like we just lost a really cool product in a way.
But in all fairness, though, we did lose a cool product, and I agree that the unstable silver border draft format was really fun, and the gameplay was really fun, and I liked like almost all the legendaries in there. Most of them I thought I wish they were black border so we could play them more regularly in Commander without having to have the rule zero question, and some of them were on Modo and stuff. But ultimately, I don't really think it's a loss of it because it's still there. We're going to have silver bordered silliness in amongst the set as well. It's still going to be playable. Just some of the cards will be playable in other formats, and that's a good thing. I think. I rarely ever agree with Mark Rosewater, but I think he was right when he said that people don't take silver cards seriously, and it kind of feels like almost like he didn't say this, but he insinuated it. It's a bit of a waste when you open them because you don't get to use them anywhere else. So the fact that those cards are going to be playable in Legacy and playable in Commander and things is kind of exciting in that the packs don't go completely to waste, and it also means they have to market them solely off the back of playable lands that they've always done in the past, although they're kind of doing that anyway. But I don't think it's lost. I think it still maintains that. I think it's a good balance in a way. Touch wood that it looks like a good balance once it comes out, but we get silver bordered silliness, but cards we can play with elsewhere as well. So I do quite like it, even if I do agree that it's just another thing to understand and cope with and product to see. I do quite like it ultimately.
Yeah, I don't think, and the reason I wanted to start with talking about the unset, we get a lot of questions of people asking what our thoughts were on it, is I don't think it's anything egregious or upsetting. I more than anything think the system that they employed is confusing, easily misunderstood. Easy to miss. It's a tiny little acorn. We're getting into all this stuff where they're saying like, oh, it's this little sticker at the very bottom, which they fall off some cards and they get misprinted frequently and all kinds of potential issues. And I get it. It's like, listen, if it's card's got a silver border, people feel it's not real. And I know that upset a lot of people on both sides of the table, both at WotC and also in terms of players, because you want a card you can play with and use. I really appreciate and to a certain extent agree with that. I feel further confused. I think there might have been a better way to do this. I think there's too many if and ors to it, where it's just this now flowchart of extra branching off things added to a larger branching off flowchart. And I do feel a kind of disappointment because I am a fan of underdog things, such as I love Plane Chase, I love Arch Enemy, and those are not like, those are things where someone would say, why should the cards be oversized and only playable in this weird thing? It feels like if we make a Plane Chase format, people aren't going to treat those as real cards either. Maybe we should make Enchant World cards that anyone can put in their deck and reveal. And it's like, yes, I see that. But there's something special about there being these little pockets of communities, little pockets of niche interest in the game that you're right. A lot of players go, I'm going to ignore the unset, or I'm going to draft it and never save the cards. A lot of players will say that. But then you've got this committed, loving community of people who really enjoy it, and it makes the larger tapestry of Magic richer, and then special things happen. Like, again, I enjoyed when they did the silver border My Little Pony and Transformer crossovers. It's what I had wanted Walking Dead to be, and now it's like they're probably not going to do that anymore. I've got those up on my wall over there. It's a cool thing where it's like, this isn't quite a real Magic card, but it is a Magic card that you can play with if you want. In some cases you can't. Like the My Little Pony ones have win conditions that don't exist, which I actually think is kind of fun. I think it adds to this depth. And so I'm going to stop right now, but I'm just going to say there's a shallowness effect. And the shallowness effect means there's less depth than there was. It's easier to cross this stream. It's easier now to sell those packs, to play with those cards. But the trade-off is we get a shallowness. That's how I feel.
Right, so I'm going to have to disagree with you to the point that I sound like a WotC shill at this point.
Well, you are
right?
a WotC shill.
Is that I don't... Yeah, if you say so. I don't think it takes away anything that you're saying, though. Like you said, we probably won't get My Little Pony cards in the future, or the Transformers ones, or whatever. We still can. They're just going to stick Acorn stamps on them. So you might not like the way they've done it. We might not like the rationale for it. Like the claim they can't put silver border on some and not on others is dumb because they do all sorts of border treatments right now. Yeah, it's like the way they just like make up stuff just to justify things. But it doesn't take away what you're explaining or describing, where we can have these cool draft formats and these cool steel products at Comic-Cons and stuff. These things can still exist. In some ways, it's funny that we could have had The Walking Dead with an Acorn logo at the very bottom of them and avoided anyone worrying about the mechanically unique things in a limited window. In some ways, them going back and doing this, it's kind of justifying putting those cards into other formats, or at least like a retroactively like, oh no, look, we're going to put these sort of things in all products now. But so yeah, I agree they're trying to shift it and sell it off of the staples, but I don't think it takes away the thing you're describing. But yeah, and the thing you're describing is lovely, by the way. I like that sort of thing as well. And it's interesting that you mentioned Plane Chase, by the way, because I would have rather seen another Plane Chase, because we've seen like, what, 1 or 2 Plane Chases total in Magic's history, and we're now on like the 4th or 5th unset or something.
But Vince, if Plane Chase is, like, I have I do all the formats and such, and my Plane Chase video is definitely not heavily viewed because it's only played by a small section of the community. So Wizards is sitting down in the boardroom with Hasbro, and they're saying, we want to do Plane Chase. And they say, most people don't play Plane Chase. When you do it, it won't sell big.
Well, of course they don't. There's no product out there for them to play with. What if?
So what if we take these oversized Plane Chase cards and we make them regular sized Magic cards? That's synonymous to silver border becoming black border, oversized becoming regular size. That way you can just put it in your deck, and it's called Plane Chase Enchantment, or Enchant World, or Plane Chase World, or something like that. And it does a similar thing, but it's just a Magic card, and suddenly something, and it has different rules, and that would sell more. But that'd sell off the shelf because it's a regular Magic card that goes to your desk, but then you just have a regular Magic card and the specialness is lost.
So what you're doing is you're describing there is what they did with Vanguard cards into Planeswalkers, right? They didn't make Vanguards in like physical. They're like, no, we're just going to make Planeswalkers instead. So what you're explaining is probably going to be a good prediction. At some point in the next 5 years, that's going to happen. It's almost like a absolute no-brainer, right? But what I thought you were suggesting, just to go a bit off the beaten track here, was that there were going to be world enchantments you revealed at the beginning of the game, similar to a companion. And I was thinking, do you know what? That was probably something they actually thought would be a good idea if Companion worked. And Companion ended up being so bad, so unbelievably game-breaking, Magic-ruiningly bad, that thank God we'll never see that. Or at least not for another 5-10 years until they lose their marbles again. But Plane Chase as a card type, like Planeswalker, I could imagine being a thing. Like a Saga that ticks down and changes your roll of dice.
Sure, yeah. I think that
anyway,
sounds
let's not give them ideas.
So for everyone asking about this in particular, my thoughts are actually very apathetic. I think it's confusing, but not terribly so. It's a little annoying, but not terribly so. It's a little disappointing, but not terribly so. And it is a little exciting, but not terribly so. I'm feeling rather apathetic about the whole thing, and that is also something that happens when you put out so many things and so many changes and so many variabilities. Maybe this product isn't for you becomes kind of the vibe, and it's like, yeah, all right, whatever.
So apathy aside then for the product details, how do you feel as a Star Trek and Doctor Who fan about the theme, about the sci-fi but with elves and goblins?
I don't like it. I don't. I love sci-fi. I love Star Trek and Doctor Who. I don't come to Magic the Gathering for sci-fi. I come to Magic the Gathering for fantasy. And that's how I feel. And even in an unset, but especially in an unset where it's now black border and all this is like the planets are going to be land bases. I'm sorry, but I like sci-fi. I don't want it in my Magic the Gathering. You know what I love is I love film noir. I love old detective film noir. I don't want detective film noir in my Magic cards straight up. I wouldn't like that because I come to Magic for fantasy, not film noir. And I do feel the same way about sci-fi. And I know that maybe Kamigawa is going to be doing the sci-fi cyberpunk more in fantasy. Looks cool. We saw some preview images and they...
have you seen the collector booster box? It's got a motorbike.
It looks really, really cool.
I don't know how fantasy it's going to be.
I like the look of that more than the Unfinity planets where it's just space, and I'm just like, Also, may I also, since we have one planet that only makes blue mana and one planet that only makes white mana and one planet that only makes green mana, how much must it suck for the people who are born on the planet that only makes white mana and that's all you get to do? Mono white cube? Ooh. Mono white commander? Oh my god. All you've got is mono white. Lame.
Actually,
Lame.
As a nice segue from there, then actually, mono white's looking pretty hot. Some of the new alchemy cards for mono white are insane.
now.
They've got us like for basically, for now they can change them, of course. But we've got like a basically strictly better collected company in white with Inquisitor Captain. Alchemy has shown us that they can make white work.
Are alchemy cards
in many different ways.
Are silver border cards real Magic cards? Second question: are alchemy cards real Magic cards?
Yeah, I can play a tournament with my alchemy cards. I can't with my silver border cards. But anyway, alchemy's introduced 60 plus new cards, and some of them, including the white ones, are very, very good. But you'll never get to play with them in paper because they're digitally unique. We've gone over this before, right? You hate the idea, I quite like the idea. But it's another rotation, right? This is a rotation for Standard. So Standard now, you have the 30-day window where Crimson Vow was out, and that was your Standard. And then 30 days in, you get another 15 to 30 cards. In this case, 60, because it's the first time round. Another 4 cards get nerfed, another 4 cards get digitally buffed, which is a whole other kettle of fish. And now Standard has rotated before Standard has rotated. Meanwhile, Historic has been ejected with 64 cards, and some cards have been nerfed and buffed, same ones as the Standard ones, some of which weren't broken in Historic, but are now unplayable because they were nerfed. So we've got another rotation. That's what happened with the next set. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty will come out. 30 days later, we get 15 to 30, the exact number's not known, 15 to 30 digital cards plus some erratas, and we just cycle Standard and we cycle Historic again. And it is tiring. As someone who's been really enjoying Historic, I'm so tired of my decks just having to shift dramatically within a month. Like, you don't even get a month window of respite or rest from a new set release with anthologies and Alchemy and Jumpstart and the main sets as well. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm not even that upset about it because I just don't care. I was really finally getting back into Historic. I had my Historic Merfolk deck. I really liked it. I was having a lot of fun with it. And all of this just makes me go, you know what? I'm just going to go play something else digitally. I've stopped Arena. I can't. It's just too much for me. I'm not interested. It doesn't have anything. When they bring Pioneer onto it, which only needs about 60 cards, by the way, maybe I'll go give it another try. I've been really enjoying Pioneer in paper again. Oh my god, I'm getting super hooked on that. You want to know why? Because Horizon sets don't go into Pioneer, because Lord of the Rings sets don't go into Pioneer, because specialty Unfinity sets don't go into Pioneer, because Pioneer just is...
For now, Brian. For now. Come on, you know it. I would not even be shocked if not Lord of the Rings, obviously we know that's modern only, but Modern Horizons 3 or Pioneer Horizons or the next thing like Lord of the Rings. What if we have Game of Thrones?
If you do that, Wizards, I still got Pauper.
But you haven't got Pauper because Horizons Rex Pauper every time. Every single time.
But then we just play a tournament where we only register basic lands and the top, and then they're humiliated. Oh my god, Vince, yeah. I just got it right now this second. Everybody watching this who is part of the camp that is protesting Alchemy, what you need to do is win all the ranked tournaments with basic land decks only. Do they publish deck lists? They don't. Oh, they hide the information.
I'm not 100%
Oh no, they
sure.
won't let you see it. They won't let you see it. Oh my god!
That's part of the benefit of moving to arenas, that they
hide
can
all that
hide
information.
Better. But to go back to something you did say, which I think is really funny, is you mentioned Merfolk, right? And I was playing Merfolk in Historic as well because the deck was pretty solid, and we're now like Midnight Hunt, Crimson Vow plus Alchemy onwards. And I think the deck is now like a solid like tier 3, perhaps, maybe 2.5. It's just not even... Well, I was thinking it's one of the better decks in the format, one of the faster decks in the format. But the funny thing is the deck I've moved to another company deck is like 50, 60 rares or something stupid in a Yorion shell. So the deck is like... Just the money you've got to pump into an economy that doesn't pay back out, doesn't give you cards back for erratas, doesn't let you dust, doesn't let you upshift uncommons to rares. The amount of money you've got to pump into Arena to keep going with the rotation is disgusting. It's so frustrating.
One rare Arena wildcard, I believe. Now, there's a little bit of debate about how you crunch it, and of course, how much you're playing grinding and such, but if you're buying packs to get wild cards, kind of exclusively. And factoring that in, I believe one rare arena wildcard is about $14 to $16, depending on how you look at it, in terms of each booster pack costing about $1 and how much you need to open to go around the wheel to get your wild card. Now, of course, there is a random chance of getting a wild card inside one of those packs. And of course, there is not taking into account things like complete some quests, get some gold, use that to buy a pack, etc. Use that gold to draft, although you can't do that with...
It's that time again.
What? Time again?
It's that time again.
What?
I'm going to tell you that I've got a video on my YouTube channel.
You have a YouTube channel? Oh my God, but Vince, it's a dying platform. Aren't you...
We're 23 minutes in. Jeez, that's incredible. That might be our record. Anyway, I spent $1,000 from a fresh account to $1,000 on Arena. I didn't. It was Arena's money. It was Wizards' money because they gave me a free account and it backfired because I did this to them. But yeah, exactly. $1,000, and I think I end up. I can't look up right now, but it's less than 200 rare wild cards. It's insane how little you get for your money on the client. And then the stuff you do get and spend becomes obsolete within 30 days because they introduce better, more powerful rares. All format defining what I like to call super staples. Your N6s, your Astrolabes, these new things that come in Horizons and Alchemy sets. And they're so powerful that not only do they create new archetypes, but they push other ones out. Like Ren 6 made playing anything with 1 toughness and legacy undoable for like 3 months until they banned it. So super staples. And we're going to see it more and more. Like you said, Lord of the Rings is coming to Modern next year. Horizons is probably the year after. But Lord of the Rings is going to inject like Gollum and Gandalf and Sauron into Modern. And they're not going to be bad cards, are they? They're not all going to be Odrics. They're more likely to be Ragavans, if anything.
Sure. And this is something that also confuses me when we're talking about just this endless rotation. So Modern now rotates when Modern Horizons comes out, and Modern Horizons appears to be coming out every other year. So Modern has an every other year rotation, or soft rotation, or artificial rotation, but the Lord of the Rings set also becomes Modern legal, which means that Modern Horizons 2, and then Lord of the Rings next year. So we had Modern Horizons 2 this year. We have Lord of the Rings next year. And then they have said there is going to be a Modern Horizons 3. I don't think they've 100% confirmed what year it's coming out in, but it's probably 2023. And so that means that Modern is rotating once a year. What other format rotates once a year? Oh, wait, it's Standard. And now Modern, which was previously the format as we showed and demonstrated using math on previous Dice to Removals episodes, that if it wasn't for the fetch land, everything in Modern would be relatively affordable and cheap, with a few exceptions, that most decks would be much more in line with a reasonable price. There's, of course, a few outlier cards, but overwhelmingly, most Modern played cards are very reasonable. And now, when you look at the cost of Modern decks, it's scattered across the entire deck because you've got Ragavans and all kinds of, and a plethora of other cards from Modern Horizons almost entirely.
100%.
That now cost a fortune. And so even though fetch lands have gone down in price to being about $20, $30, and how long will that last? It's just overwhelming.
Yeah. So to really stress that point, again, there's another video on my YouTube channel from last week where I talked about super staples, this idea, because the fetch lands went down by around 40%, right? But the prices of decks didn't go down by 40% because Ragavan is an $80 card, like you said. Murktide's a $20 card, and so on and so on and so on. And the reason for this, so some people do point to Astrolabe and similar things in Horizons products in the past for making decks cheaper because you pay more basics, or it's a common, right? Whatever. But the problem is, a lot of these cards are actually in the rare and mythic slot, so they're expensive, and they aren't reprinted in a meaningful way, or haven't been yet over the last 2.5 years since the first Modern Horizons. So what we see is cards just going up and up in price. Force of Negation is a prime example of this. It's a card that dipped a little bit with a reprint, but it was reprinted as a special alternate frame only in collector boosters. So they are generating new reprint equity every single straight to Modern or Legacy set, and they're not reprinting them in a way that keeps them affordable. So if this was an artificial rotation that gave us uncommon and common power level, or cheap rares, then it would be good because then we have people get into these formats. But it's not doing that. It's just making them prohibitively expensive, which will, in the long term, just, it's going to kill Legacy. It's going to probably damage or kill Modern eventually. We need to see stuff like this if they're going to continue doing this, which seems to be a valid business strategy, in non-premium priced. So I don't think we know what Lord of the Rings is at right now, right? But Modern Horizons 1 and 2 and 3, premium priced. So a Mythic in a premium price set is going to be $20 minimum if played, right? It needs to be non-premium premium price and it needs to be plentifully printed, but we're not seeing that either. So all these things come together to make everything super expensive.
So would you just, one more time, non-premium price plentifully printed? Just, that's a great tongue. Non-premium price plentifully printed. Non-premium price plentifully printed. Modern Horizons 2 was double the cost of Modern Horizons 1. And to look at where they're going, the Masters set we're getting next year. That's right. We're also getting a Masters set next year. It's double Masters 2, right? Double Masters 2. So double Masters squared.
Yeah, something like
How
that.
much is it going to
Masters,
cost?
but...
Don't you people have money? I spent...
Yeah, it's wild. Like, so I used to always do budget modern and budget legacy videos on my channel, and I've all but given up. Because the reason that I campaigned for the Fetchland reprint so hard and made t-shirts and stuff, because like, if Fetchlands go down in price, legacy becomes affordable, because not all the decks need duels. And what do we have now? Decks with $400 of monkey in them. Like, it's insane. Like, you can't do budget anymore, because the staples are getting dearer. I don't know how they've managed to do this. They've made collectibles worth less, and then the staples worth more. Like, the opposite of
One
what
copy of
doing.
Ragavan costs more than a brand new the new Metroid game. It costs more than a new video game.
Yeah, it's like
one copy of it costs more. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
But I thought you did
gross.
all those videos about trying to get them to reprint Fetchlands just because you wanted clout. That's what a bunch of people who didn't make content said.
Yes, that's the strong secondary reason. The primary reason was I wanted to make more clout off budget legacy videos. It's all clout in the end, Bob.
Clout all the way down. Clout all the way down.
Yeah, ABC,
Right.
always be clouting. That actually means something very different. Yeah, so Fetchlands have gone down a little bit. They're now creeping back up, and all the staples are more expensive. Welcome to Modern and Legacy. Or not welcome, as the case may be, because you can't buy in because it's too expensive.
Question for you, Vince. Do you feel that both in paper and on digital, there is a need and value for there to be at least one format that does not rotate, be it through official or artificial means? Essentially, there should be one place that does exist that this is not going to be a rotating format, even through injections from specialty overpowered sets designed for modern, things like that, where it's just, this is a non-rotating format in the truest sense. Do you think that there's a need and or value for that, both in paper and digital?
Absolutely. I mean, Magic's kind of built half its whole entire life off of having that, right? Whether it be extended or T1 or legacy, whatever you called it, because it allows people to step away from the game and come back and not be completely shut out and alienated. It allows people to return to the game. I feel like we're going towards a state where it's more about turn and burn of new players, via digital especially, more so than allowing other players to come back. The players who spent a lot of money back then and then want to spend more money now, the ones who come back with better disposable income because they were a poor college student before and now they've got a job. Those people struggle to come back. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also outside of keeping players in, it's just nice to keep people included, right? No, maybe that's a bit of a dirty leftist idea. I don't know.
I certainly agree with that. Oh my God, am I a communist? Am I Spice 8 Rack? But...
including people is communist,
so
I've heard. Yes.
Here's what I want you to do, and I invite everybody watching to attempt to do this in the comments as well. I am a high-up executive at Hasbro, within their division of Hasbro called Wizards of the Coast, and I've invited you in to convince me why I, as a business executive, should ensure that exists within paper and digital. So why should I do that? Why should I, as a company, provide that? If you convince me, I'll do it. You're here?
Well, like I said...
Mr. Kanabi.
Okay.
Mr. Kanabi. Please, Kanabi, have a seat.
Hello, I'm
Mr.
hello,
Kanabi,
Mr.
please
Kanabi.
have a
That's
seat.
right.
And I would like
I've
you to
flown all the way here
convince
from
me
England.
why I should do that. Because when we make Modern Horizons, it was the biggest selling set of the year. When we make Alchemy, we made a fortune on Magic Arena. When we make the Brawl precons for Paper Brawl that had the must-have Arcane Signet in it, they sold out at every shop the first day they hit the shelves. So we are seeing that by introducing rotation, even to formats like Modern and Commander, and Historic, we are seeing sales go through the roof. People are buying. Okay.
Yeah, you're making all the
So you're
profit.
saying I should make a
mad
format
money,
where
but-
we do not create that sort of thing for where we're gonna
No,
bet.
I'm
What are
not
you saying?
that. Because you're calling me in
convince me.
to
What?
try
Yeah.
and convince you that you're going to make more of a profit. Yeah, but I'm not
Okay.
going to convince you to make more of a profit because this sort of thing isn't profit driven. It's like it's things that they don't really give a about, right? Oh, you have to beep that one. Community engagement, goodwill, heritage, history. These things that like build up a game to make a game like Magic become Magic, right? Magic isn't Pokemon. Magic, well, I guess Pokemon's even got this stuff now, but it's not one of the softer card games or the card games that fail. It's one of the ones that has prolonged life and has what's the word I'm looking for? Persevered, right? Because it has those things in addition to the fact that it's so profitable and so monetizable. But those things don't really matter anymore.
So there's no reason. What you're literally telling me, there is no reason that we should do this.
If you're telling
Yeah.
me to talk to an exec in a boardroom who is only caring about profit margins, then no. Like, they're not going to fix the MTG arena economy because it makes money. They're not going to stop rotating sets because it makes money. We are in a very... I'm so doom and gloom today. You've got me into this, Brian. I was so positive before this. It's just going to make them money, so why should they care? Why should they care? They will turn and burn new players, and then people like myself who are just too far down the well can't get out.
We have our arena
that's that.
team, our devs, our designers. How do you like the fact that now we've got game designers spending their mental energy making alchemy cards? That's another thing, but why should I tell Mr. Kanabi, why should I tell my devs and arena team and such to invest in quality of life improvements for the client over just 60 new alchemy cards?
Because it makes you look less like a comedy devil. It makes you look less like a villain from The Simpsons, like Mr. Burns. That's why. It makes you look like more of a human being who cares about other human beings or cares about the game. That's why. There's nothing I could say to convince a boardroom man, Brian.
Or
'Cause
boardroom man
only likes
or
the word
woman.
profit. Oh, woman. I would hope a woman would have more empathy than a boardroom man would. Is that fair to say? I don't know. There's nothing I can say that would make it more profitable. So there's nothing to convince them. Is that too doom and gloom, or is that just a fair statement about
How
the
many
situation
alchemy
we're in?
packs
I don't
have
know.
you personally purchased with your own money?
0 at the moment, but I want to make content about historic, and I'm in this conflicted space of like, do I even spend money on this because it's a joke, but the format's cool? That's the duality of man, the duality of a content
If you're
creator.
gonna buy it, like if you're literally
yeah.
I'm also so wait a minute, let me just also get this straight. You have given us money, or you're gonna give us money for this thing you're telling me we shouldn't be doing. You don't make security. We've got a madman in here. We've got an absolute madman in here. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe we should say, maybe this should be Dice
but
to
you
Removal.
know
How
what?
about this? Hey everybody, welcome to Dice to Removal. We're here to cover Unfinity changes. We're here to cover Modern Horizons 3 and Lord of the Rings being legal and modern, and we're here to cover Alchemy. All right, let's go. Unfinity. This is a great move. By making it Black Border, it's going to sell more, make more money, and sell more. But Alchemy, people are spending all this money on packs and redeeming wild cards, which they spend all this money to get. Excellent. Modern Horizons 3, we hope it's going to sell more than Modern Horizons 2. This is amazing if it does. Great profits all around. And Lord of the Rings, well, if we make it legal and modern, that means it'll sell more than if it wasn't legal and modern. So, yeah.
And you know what, viewers at home? That makes the cash cow of WotC grow bigger and fatter, and that means your reserve list staples that you've got hidden in your cupboard that you're not playing with, they're just going to go up and up in price because magic will never die. All hail the overlords at WotC making profit. Is this what you wanted, Brian? Is this what you wanted? So here's a point. Here's a point on the profit thing, right? Is that like the artificial rotation of historic wouldn't be anywhere near as bad if the arena economy wasn't so bad. Like there's an argument that keeping it fresh and interesting is how you create an esport. And maybe in the back of someone's closet, there's still a letter saying Wizards really want to make an esport or something, right? So maybe fresh change, constant change, standard change every 30 days is fine if the economy wasn't so bad. Because it's just so expensive. Like you said, the average cost for a wild card being upwards of like $10 or whatever. Like, it's just insane how expensive the economy is. So there's an argument that maybe artificial rotation serves a gameplay function of keeping things fresh. But if we're not having to spend so much money to get there, but that's the thing. That's not how you make profit, right? So we're back to that profit argument again. If people keep buying wild cards, why would we fix it? They're looking at the data. They're looking at the data right now, right this minute going, everyone is moaning. Like this man who came into the office had to get ejected by security. Everyone is moaning, but they're still buying.
As
No
we
one's stopped buying.
escorted him out of the building, we noticed he went on his phone and purchased some wild cards. So, well, not wild cards, but packs until he got wild cards. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can't purchase wildcards directly. No, they've got to authenticate it through weird
They don't
gem
want
and
you to
coin
purchase
systems.
wildcards successfully because then they'd have to show you the price of an individual wildcard. And when people saw that wildcards actually are about $14 to $16 each, they would have a mental breakdown. And so by covering up and confusing what things cost, shifting things around, much like a kitten in a litter box to cover up what it's done, Wizards of the Coast is able to get away with pricing wildcards so high, etc., etc. Yeah.
A bit of a side tangent. I really hope that gacha games and mobile games and online games that have gambling in them, like opening of packs, for example, like Magic does, I really hope at some point they get stung with some legislation where they have to really overtly advertise what a game piece costs, like a wild card, for example, and then Wizards have to deal with that. I know it sounds almost a bit resentful, but I think it'd be their just desserts to get them to pack this in, because Historic's got nothing but Arena's got nothing but worse over the past couple of months,
No.
and it's not going to get any better. They're pushing it as far as they can go, similar to what they're doing with the $100 boosters last year. Pushing as far as they can go, and then peeling back at the last moment. Whoa, this might be the most doom and gloom, miserable
I've
episode
been
of
very
Dice Removal
positive.
we've done
I
in
said
quite some
we're
time.
making a lot of money. I said I don't care. Like, that's also the thing. So I think one of the biggest problems that all of this has is this problem of apathy. And the truth is like, there have been other dice removals where I've been very upset. I'm joking here. Like, I don't really feel upset. I don't care. I'm not going to play Arena anymore. I was barely playing Arena. I was barely playing Arena to begin with, and then I went back onto Arena. I started getting into it, and then they took the format that I played, and they upended it. Again, they had previously done it, which is what, And I'm just like, whatever. I'm expecting it. The unset thing, it's coming in. It's confusing. My commander decks, I have fewer and fewer commander decks because it's just harder and harder to keep them up to date. I got to keep commander up to date. Modern it's just like an explosion of insanity with all this stuff. Pioneer, Pauper, and Pauper are really, Pioneer in particular is just really clean. It's a clean, easy to grok format.
Pioneer, sure. Paupers have
but they
the same
banned it all
problems
at
as the
least. It
rest
has
of them
these
for,
periods,
so long,
but they did ban them all. So Pauper is actually really good.
Yeah, Modern's looking good right now. But not for long, right? When Lord of the Rings comes in and ruins Pauper again.
Right.
Where Pauper gets ruined by, I don't know, a hobbit hole land that does something stupid. But the apathy thing, Brian, I can't get on board with this apathy because I really, my content, my coming up was, you were product reviews. I was gameplay. Not so much anymore, but I used to always be gameplay. So it's always the thing I sort of fall back to. And it's frustrating to do a gameplay video, think this is a cool format, this is fun, put it out in the world, and the comments to be overwhelmingly people going, I'm going to have to live vicariously through you, Vince, because this is just too expensive for me to get into. And also, here's some points for you. Was that comment I just said out almost verbatim, was that about legacy or historic? Spoiler alert, it's both of them. They're both super expensive. It doesn't make any sense, Brian. So I can't be apathetic. It really grinds my gears.
Yeah. So in terms of Pioneer, like you joked about Pioneer Masters, do you think they're going to leave Pioneer alone? Do you think that they're going to allow us to funnel our interest into Pioneer as it continues to grow as this nice eternal and by eternal, I mean non-rotating. I know that eternal means legacy and vintage, but Commander, I mean non-rotating is this nice non-rotating format. I do want it on Arena. I'd be very happy with. They could, in all honesty, they could literally just say tomorrow, everything that is currently Pioneer legal that's already on Arena is now just turned on to Pioneer Light, and then add 60 cards. Just 60 cards.
So did you know this is what they did with Modo? So back in the day, Modo didn't have all the old sets on it. They had to go backwards and put things into Modo. So there's a period where there was a legacy, but didn't have all the legacy cards in it. So they've done this before.
Did you know on Modo there's
system.
a button you can push and you can trade your digital cards in for paper cards that they'll mail to you for like $25 or whatever?
No, yeah. Which is incredible, really. But my point is, I'm saying they've done this before and it worked and it established a platform for people to continue playing those formats, right? Your demand or request, shall we say, for Pioneer to go on Arena is a real monkey paw, right? Because basically, you get Pioneer on Arena, and how do they monetize that? Well, they sell you master sets, whether it be Pioneer masters or remastered sets of older sets going into Pioneer, right? So you get that sold to you for a little while. Let's say it takes them 6 to 12 months to get through the bits they want to get through. And then what do? Because they've sold you all the cards now, Brian, right? So they have to rotate it. So what happens? We get Pioneer Anthologies, we get Pioneer Horizons, we get Pioneer Jumpstart, Anthology Horizons, whatever nomenclature or whatever they use to describe it, and then you've got your rotating Pioneer there. It's just going to happen. And Arena will kickstart that or speed up that process of atrophy towards a rotation, because it's how they monetize it. So you're going to get it, Brian, eventually, and then you're going to regret it.
Were there any other controversies this last week? All right, Vince, final Q&A. Are you going to purchase Unfinity packs in some form? Yes.
Yes.
Are you going to purchase
Yes.
Modern Horizons 3? Are you going to purchase Lord of the
Begrudgingly,
Rings
yes.
packs? Are you going to purchase
Yes.
the Warhammer Commander decks?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Are you going to purchase any Alchemy packs, honestly, using your own money?
That's up in the air at the moment. I don't know if I'm peeling back from
Really?
Arena.
You know
Yeah.
you're going to do at least one.
No.
No? Okay, so maybe. That's up in the air. That's up in the
Yeah,
air.
that's definitely up in the air.
Are you still spending your money on Arena, though? Are you still spending your own money in any way, shape, or form on Arena stuff?
So that's the one where I just do not know what I'm doing right now. I'm so conflicted and so frustrated with Arena that I don't know if my content shifts towards screw Arena, let's do other things. Like a series where we just go and play Legends of Runeterra or like Chandelier. Look at all these alternatives we've got to Arena. I don't know. Maybe that's where I go with it.
Final question. We're talking about Pioneer, the awesomeness of Pioneer now as the format, the need and the value for formats like Pioneer that do not have artificial rotation. Being honest, did you spend, you just said what you're spending your money on. Did you spend your money on any of the Pioneer Challenger decks that came out this year?
I didn't, because Wizards sent them to me.
Wizard sends things to people?
Yeah, they do.
Uno!
Unlikely.